Hello literature connoisseurs. Let's begin. This is a brief summary of my thoughts of the first 5 chapters of Left Behind. Overall the book, so far, is very poorly written. There is a lot of false information and misdirection. The characters behave erratically and act like juveniles despite being fully grown adults. There is little to no theology presented. If someone had no idea what the rapture is, they would understand very little by how it is explained in the book so far. It seems strange that only a couple of people understand it was the rapture when many people know about this Christian idea. Christians have been bragging that the rapture will happen for many years. Churches have posted signs warning the rapture would come on such and such a date. The time comes and they make up excuses on why the rapture never happened on that day. This happened in the 70s and 80s, the 90s and even in the 2000s. This book series is just another Christian attempt to scare people into joining their churches. The sad thing is, as I mentioned before, that some of my old Christian friends told me about how lousy the books are and they gave up reading them. Pat Robertson wrote a book titled End of the Age. This was a book of Christian literature in which the book of Revelations begins and the Antichrist rises to power. The amazing thing about this book is the fact that the fulfillment of the biblical prophecies takes on a more rational and logical look. The Left Behind series has Christians seeing something weird and they raise their hands saying God did it. In the book End of the Age, there was one point where they made a statue of the Antichrist. Worshippers would go to it and it would take and respond to their questions in a way that the worshippers thought they were actually talking to the Antichrist himself. Where Pat Robertson's book differs is that he goes on to describe how this amazing statue was created like the robots in Disneyland's Hall of Presidents. The robot was programmed by computer to pick up on key words and phrases that a worshipper might say and respond in a way that the Antichrist would. That made a lot more sense and was a better, believable explanation than a spirit entered the robot statue and made it talk. He also explained at the part in Revelations where the demon locusts were released, he described them as being invisible, which was why no one could run away from them. Scientists had managed to capture one of the locusts and when they dissected it, it was shown that their scales had a camouflage pattern that made them look invisible to just about everyone. Of course Pat Robertson did not believe in the rapture, so when Christians ran to the churches to find out about the suffering and prophecies being unleashed, he lamely explained why God is keeping the true Christians in the world to suffer with the bad and unbelievers. The book is very small but an amazing step up from the Left Behind series. Still it pales in comparison to The Oath by Frank E. Peretti. This was one of my all-time favorite books of Christian literature. None of them will make you a believer or want to convert. The Oath was written on the level of being like a Stephen King novel, except it is for Christians. Compared to those giants, the Left Behind series deserves to be in the bargain books the library sells for $0.25. If I had to sum up the first 5 chapters, they go like this. There is a plane flying, somewhere, but we won't know where it's going until chapter 4 when it turns around and heads back the way it came. The pilot is cheating on his wife, but he's not really cheating and the person he is cheating with doesn't even know they are going out. Rayford hates that his wife is into religion and that's the only reason why he is cheating. So Rayford decided to tell Hattie that he wanted to be in a relationship with her when the supposed rapture happened. On the whole of the entire plane he was the only one to know what the rapture was. The loved ones of the Christians that were taken had no clue whatsoever. Fearing his wife disappeared, he suddenly forgets that he loved Hattie even though he believes his wife was taken in the rapture. There is an extremely juvenile reporter named Buck that works for an unnamed newspaper. They are basically reporting the same news that Time magazine does. He is an unknown in the world of journalism yet somehow has an all-expenses-paid bank account and he feels that normal rules don't apply to him. He is very gullible and believes in conspiracy theories. While in Israel doing an interview, there were the Russians, who have a failed economy and all their people are starving. They attack Israel to steal a magic formula so they can become rich. Hail magically appears destroying the army, armed with nuclear weapons, and rain washes the radiation into the ground and water supplies, but no one was harmed by it. Yet how many times has Israel been attacked and nothing like this has ever really happened? Even when the invaders were defeated, there has always been some kind of fallout and recovery period. Except this one time, right? Buck started believing in God because of that. Rayford gets home and learns his wife and son are gone while Buck tries to get to his office in New York. So I summarized 5 chapters into roughly 2 to 3 paragraphs. Ignoring the adults acting like children and all the filler that bogs down the story, leading you to false conclusions. The Bible says, as if I care, that God is not the author of confusion. So if God was real and asked his followers to write accounts to convince others, then God picks the wrong people because what they write does not make any sense. It's just one big mess. As my previous videos have shown. Next we'll be moving on to chapter 6 and the torture continues. See you next time.